everyone, and welcome to the second in the series of short cookery films being made in conjunction with Virtual Health Day. Due to COVID regulations, we can't be with you in person, but we hope you enjoy this little film. This short cookery demonstration is done in conjunction with the Public Health Agency, Age Friendly Belfast, and of course, Volunteer Now. The dish we're making today is corned beef hash. It's simple to cook, it's inexpensive, but trust me, it's absolutely delicious. In addition, the total cost of the ingredients for this meal is only £2.38. That, believe it or not, is only £1.19 per portion, making it cheap, but it's also very healthy. Hey, that's not bad. So let's take a little look at the ingredients that we're going to use in this recipe today. First of all, we have one 130 gram tin of corned beef cut up into 1/2 inch cubes. Then we have 567 grams of tinned potato cut into little bite-sized pieces. This makes it a lot easier when we're cooking. One medium, and this is a medium onion, slightly larger than medium, but it doesn't matter. Loads of onion is good in the recipe. So one medium onion, finely chopped. We have 2 nice fresh eggs, and if I can give you a tip, if you keep your eggs in the fridge, take them out a good half hour before you're going to use them. They'll cook far better. And last and by no means least, we have some salt, some black pepper, some Worcester sauce, and some sunflower oil. Okay, let's take a little look at the utensils that we're going to use in this little demonstration. And guys, it couldn't be simpler. All we're going to use in this demo is one good non-stick frying pan. I have a little one here just in case when we make our hash, that if the pan's a little sticky, you can use a clean pan, but we may not even need it. A couple of wooden spatulas, and here I have a plate that I've already warmed up in the microwave, and you'll see why very soon. So let's kick off. First thing we're going to do is, it says in your instructions that you will use 3 tablespoons of oil. What I want to do is, to get me started, put 1 tablespoon of oil on. Once that 1 tablespoon of oil has heated up, and just before we started the film, I put the heat under the pan, so my pan is nice and hot, as we should here when we put the onions onto the pan. Yes, a nice little crackle from the onions. So if you've seen any of the previous films or videos that we have put together for cookery, one of the important things is when you're cooking anything, and particularly with onions, is to get a good colour onto them. And when I say good, I don't mean dark brown or burned around the edges, just to get a little bit of colour into them, because it's very important. Why? Because as you start to cook any vegetable, there are natural sugars in the vegetable, and those sugars start to come out. And when they find the heat of the pan, they caramelise. And hence the phrase you'll hear people talking about, which is to caramelise onions or carrots or potatoes or whatever else there may be. So we've got our onions on and we're cooking them. The hot plate that I mentioned to you earlier on, sitting over here, the purpose of that is that we're going to cook each individual element of the dish. Once we have cooked that, we'll put it over onto the hot plate for it to stay warm, and then we will continue to add the pieces that we cook to the hot plate, and then eventually we'll bring them all back to the pan to actually bring them together and make it a corned beef hash. What we're going to do now is we're going to go for a quick pause, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes when we have the onions ready. So, as you can see, we've got a nice colour just coming on to the onions, and once we get it to this stage, this is literally when we take it across to the warmed plate that we mentioned earlier on. So, all of your onions. Now, if you're a real health freak and you want to be extra healthy in what you're doing, what you can do is put a little bit of kitchen paper onto the plate before you put the onions on it, and then roll the onions around and remove as much of the oil as you want to. But look, will I tell you something? This is sunflower oil. This is good quality oil. This isn't something that's going to be doing you any harm. What we're going to do is we're going to put the second spoonful of oil now into the pan. Roll the oil around the pan a little bit to get it covered, and then we're going to add our tinned potatoes. Now, in case you're thinking, gosh, I've never used tinned potatoes before, or I can't imagine that I would ever use tinned potatoes, try them. They are absolutely excellent. Now, the other thing is that if you don't like tinned potatoes, and I can tell you they're exactly the same as ordinary potatoes, get a couple of medium-sized potatoes, peel them, chop them down to this size here, and then boil them in advance until they're just about cooked and no more, and put them into your bowl ready to make your dish. It'll be the exact same thing. But trust me guys, you will be amazed at tinned potatoes. Reflecting back on what we were saying earlier on there about the actual recipe that we're doing, we had talked about 565 gram tin of these potatoes, which are already cooked. You're not cooking them, all you're doing is heating them through. That's what we're doing here in the pan at the moment, is we're just heating them through. These potatoes are so handy. If you were making yourself up a little stew or anything at all, tins of potatoes are a revelation to me. Only when I put together this recipe did I use them for the first time, and I gotta tell you, I will be using them again. So that 565 gram tin of potatoes that we have in there in front of us, I'm trying to remember the exact cost off the top of my head, but it was something like 40 pence, 50 pence, somewhere around about that. And look at how many potatoes you got for 40 or 50p. How many times have you went out and bought a £5 bag of potatoes, and before you get to the end of the week, you have little sprouts growing out of them everywhere, and you throw them out? Apart from the waste of money of actually throwing them out, it's a sin to throw food out. So guys, trust me on these are good. I'm going to keep them moving about, because remember, what I'm doing here with these potatoes is getting a little bit of heat through them. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention was, in the recipe card that you will have received, it mentions giving them a little mash when they're on the pan. So I forgot about that when I was setting up a little bit earlier. When you're mashing, we're not talking about making mashed potatoes here. If you went back about 10 years ago, all the posh restaurants served what were called crushed potatoes. Now, what's a crushed potato? It's a potato that you crushed, and yet they thought this was something fabulous. But what I do want you to do is just to gently press on the potatoes. Don't mush them all through. As you can see here, some of them are breaking up quite quickly, but that's all I want. I want a wee bit of a mushy consistency to the potatoes when we're bringing them back together again. Second stage is done. Why? We're going to the plate, and what we're doing is we're putting the potatoes now onto the warm plate. On top of, beside, doesn't matter with the onions, because it's going to cover a whole lot. And one of the things I want you to recognise when you look down here now is, that's an awful lot of food over there. There's two of us are going to share this between us. Here you can see we've still a little bit of oil on the pan, but I'm going to use about a half a tablespoon just to get a little bit of colour on our corned beef hash, because I want to leave that other little bit, especially for our eggs when it comes to there. So, in with the corned beef. A lot of people talk about corned beef as if it's something terrible or something sinful. Let me tell you an interesting fact about corned beef. It used to be called bully beef. And during the Second World War, troops all over the world during the war lived on this thing. The biggest producer of corned beef in the world is Argentina. Argentina have been producing this stuff for years. But, and a very big but, is It is argued that the recipe comes from Cork in the southwest of Ireland. One of the greatest TV chefs that there is a guy called Rick Stein. And Rick went down to Cork a few years ago to a place called the English Market. And if you ever go to the city of Cork, you need to go to the English Market. Why? It's beautiful. It's recognised as one of the best markets in the whole of Europe. And when you're there on the ground floor, that's where all of the market stalls are, with the most prolific display of food you've ever seen. I have never seen ever a bigger pile of chicken wings in my life. Tens of thousands of them. But the important thing is, on the balcony up above all of the food, what you have up there is a little restaurant that makes only Irish dishes. Rick Stein went up there and he had corned beef and Colcannon, and he said that it was one of the best meals he had ever eaten. Now, I'm one of those ones that shouts at the TV all the time and says, Rick, how come everything you eat's always the best thing you've ever eaten? He actually put it into context to say that he does say that a lot, but when it comes to talking about this meal in Cork, he most sincerely meant it. I'm going to give my pan a little weight with a little bit of kitchen roll, and as you can see, it's a pity we didn't get those bits of beef onto that plate. Lovely clean pan, and how you get a lovely clean pan is start off with a good pan. That isn't a terribly expensive pan. Go for Tefal. Remember that red thing there in the middle? Now there are other good makes of pan, but I like Tefal. What we're left with now is the last spoonful of oil. So that was one spoonful that covered the onions, the potatoes, the corned beef, and one spoonful that we're going to use to fry our eggs. Again, if you want to be very, very special and you want to be very, very healthy, you could do a poached egg. And I was going to do a little demonstration of a poached egg for you, but we are running out of time just a little bit. So, nice warm pan. How do you like your eggs? Well, I would say to you, it doesn't really matter how you like your eggs, because when it comes to corned beef hash, you really need soft eggs, sunny side up. And when I say soft eggs, unlike some of the people I know, never, ever, ever eat raw white of an egg. It's not good for you. So what you do is cook the egg long enough on the pan that the white cooks through, but the yolk remains nice and runny. So 2 eggs on a pan. As soon as I was about to say don't mess about with them, I went and put my spatula into the pan to start to mess about with them. But what you really do want to do is, I'm just flicking this little edge up here so that the eggs look the right shape. So there's another little edge there. Just want to bring that in, because that's what I want the eggs to look like. What we're going to do is give them a minute or two and let them start to cook underneath, because when they're cooking underneath, you start to get that sort of shiny surface on it, which allows the egg to move about, and that's what makes life easy in cooking eggs. So, there's the egg starting to move, that's great. 2 reasons for that. One, I'm good at what I do, don't you believe that? 2, it's a good frying pan, and if you look at that, these eggs are in total control, and all we're waiting for is, I'm watching the weight of the egg to start to cook through. What I'm going to do here is that if you are the sort of person who doesn't like the top of your egg to look completely runny, all you do is slip the spatula underneath and flip it over. The Americans have ways of describing eggs. They call this one sunny side up, and they call this one over easy. Now what I'm going to do is, if you bear with me, I'm just going to grab this little plate here for a second, because the over easy egg is just about ready to come off, because again we want that yolk to be soft. In terms of the sunny side up, I'm just waiting another moment or two for the weight of the egg to become cooked through, and especially if you've any pregnant ladies or more older persons, make sure the weight of the egg is cooked through. Please make sure you do that. It's not fully cooked through yet, but the egg's going to continue to cook when I take it off. So I'm going to slip it off and put it over there onto the plate. Now if you're looking and you're thinking, how did he do that with those eggs? Why were they so easy to turn and do all of that? The secret, guys, is not me, it's the pan. If you can't get your eggs to stop sticking, there's something wrong with your pan. Now what we're going to do is, we're going to bring back all of the ingredients that we started off with. Lovely sizzle from the pan. Trying to get them mixed nicely through, we'll do that in just a second. Because no longer do we have a set of ingredients, folks, now we have corned beef hash. As you can remember, that everything that's in this pan is already cooked. So all we're trying to do is to mix it through. If you can't flick a pan to make the ingredients move, don't try to do it. All you're going to do is make a mess. Take 2 spoons and move the stuff about until it gets to the point where there is a good constant mixture right through everything that's happening. I'm going to go and I'm going to get 2 plates ready for serving, so if you bear with me, we'll be back in literally 1 minute. Okay, here we are. We're back again. Literally only 2 minutes have gone by, because all I was doing was getting my bowls and heating them through. The last ingredients that we need to use is, firstly, our Worcester sauce. And you are literally, please watch how much I put on, because this is how much you need. A little splash right across the top. That's it. That is no more than a teaspoon, but spread the whole way through it. Black pepper, freshly cracked black pepper. You put on as much pepper as you like or you don't like. For the salt, I'm going to wait for the salt for 2 reasons. One, the corned beef is salty in its own right, and the main purpose of the salt is to go into the egg. So again, please bear with me for literally 1 second. I'm going to grab a nice serving spoon to make this easier to do. And to serve, all we need to do now is turn off the heat under the pan, because this corned beef hash is ready. Again, what I'm looking for here is I'm looking to make sure that each person is getting about the same amount of potato, corned beef and onion. Now if you're not a big eater, this is a meal for 3. So what you do is you get a 3rd egg, because if this was just for a nice lunch, that is plenty of potato, meat and onion for 1 person, and there's probably enough there for another. But I'm going to be a beast, and I'm going to load the plates up properly, because as soon as this is finished, this is lunch. So there we go, 2 really great big plates of food, guys and girls. All the posh chefs make sure that around the edge of their plates are clean. Sure, why shouldn't I then? So there we've got our 2 plates. Coming back to my egg. And what I want to do is, just to make a nice little landing spot here for the egg, a little dent in the top. On plate number 1, we have sunny side up. And on plate number 2, we have easy over. And the only choice that you have left that you got to make when it comes to this dish is, do you like sunny side up or do you like easy over? What I want to do is a little crack of salt into the egg yolk. And if you want it to be really, really posh at this stage, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of finely chopped parsley, something like that, just to bring an additional colour to it. But I don't know about you, but I can't wait to taste this. So here we have corned beef hash. I'm going to flick my egg over just to let you see that the yolk is runny, and in below here it's run down in between the hash. Guys, that's one of the things that makes it absolutely gorgeous. I want to pick up a little bit of the egg, a little bit of the potato, some onion and a little bit of the meat. I've got to tell you, it was one of the simplest dishes I've ever cooked in my life. but it's absolutely delicious. And I hope that when you cook this, you get the same result as we did here. Just want to thank you for tuning in and watching this little film today. And don't forget, very soon we'll be back with the next in the series. From me, Jerry Faluna, all the best. Bye bye.